Nebraska decided, hey, let's vote to become winner take all, like every other state. And I remember last week, there were a couple of days when this was moving forward, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, nice job, Nebraska. Like, well done. This is what happens when you have a Republican state legislature and a big one, because I'm in close, like a supermajority. Wonderful. Great job, Nebraska. And then the next day, great job, Nebraska. Oh, look at that. We're moving forward. And then the next day, failed. The vote failed. What are you talking about? Want to go to State Senator Loren Lippincott. State Senator, how are you, sir?
Good morning, sir. Very well, thank you.
Thanks for being here. So you're one of the co-sponsors of this bill. So let's go back. Let's go back to the very beginning. Why is Nebraska one of the two states that doesn't do it winner take all? What's the history of that?
Well, sir, as you mentioned, only Maine and Nebraska have the district plan, or more accurately called the composite plan. And let me explain. Back in 1972, Maine adopted this procedure, and the reason that they did was that they wanted to give third-party candidates an opportunity to compete. That was back in 1972, and Maine has remained the leading state that has the district plan. And just to explain what I mean by composite plan, as we know, all the states have two electoral votes which are assigned to the two U.S. senators. So that would be winner take all. But Maine then, back in 1972, adopted the district plan for the congressional districts. They have two congressional members for their state. And of course, we know that that is assigned by the number of populations. Each United States representative represents approximately 700,000 people. Nebraska has 5. So that was back in 1972 for Maine. Then in 1992, 30 years later, the great state of Nebraska adopted this same composite plan, and they thought it was an experiment. They thought that it was going to sweep the nation. They thought there was going to be a trend in that direction, but it did not. And Nebraska has tried about 6 different times to to switch back to winner take all like the other 48 states, but it's fallen short. Now, actually, it did pass the legislature twice, and both times we had a Democrat governor in the state of Nebraska, and the Democrat governor did veto that legislation. So here we are in 2024, and we tried again to pass this legislation, but now, as a backdrop, Nebraska has a unicameral. We're the only state in the nation that does have a unicameral, which means we only have one house in the legislature. It's a Senate, and there's 49 state senators that represent approximately 40,000 people per legislative district. So what happens is we have 3 rounds of legislative process, the so-called sausage-making process. Round 1, 2, and 3. And what the Democrats have been fond of doing recently is they will filibuster the progress, and it takes 33 votes, a supermajority, in order to stop the filibuster. That's called cloture. And we have tried over and over again to get this legislation passed, but right now we are sitting at approximately 30 votes out of 33 votes in order to stop the filibuster, and we've just been stopped on it. I introduced this particular bill last year, 2023. We do operate, as many legislatures do, on a biennium, which is a 2-year cycle, and I brought it back in this legislative year, but I continued to put my finger on the pulse and only had about 30 votes out of the 33 needed in order to stop the filibuster.
Okay, I got a ton of questions. Aren't there 33 Republicans in the Nebraska Senate?
There are 33 Republicans now in the Nebraska Senate. One of the Democrats just switched over to Republican last week. But here's the problem that we have. Of the 49 state senators, 14 of those represent Omaha. 5 of them represent Sarpy County, which is part of the Omaha Metroplex. Lincoln, Lancaster County, has 9 state senators. So you add 9 plus 5, that's 14. 14 plus 14, that's 28. So 28 out of the 49 state senators, that's 57% of our state senators represent either Omaha or Lincoln. And some of those,
no way.
Yeah, so some of those people are a holdout. And as I'm sure you know, our electoral college is important because what it does is it spreads out the representation of our country so that we don't just simply have population centers that are represented. And the same argument then could be made for winner take all. And so that's the issue that we have.
Okay, that's it. So because you said that in order to break the filibuster, you need 33 Republicans to just stop it and just move on to the vote. And you have 33 Republicans by that miracle that one gentleman switched over, mostly because of abortion, I believe, right?
That is correct.
Switched over to people. So it's great. We got 33 Republicans. Boom. Let's get this done. But you're saying, oh no, a lot of these are from Omaha, so they may be Republican. But, the Rhino would be the name for that. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, let's go back again. I got more questions and things you said. So I just assumed that Nebraska has been this way since they became a state in, 18, whatever. It was 1992? They've been doing it this way? That's it?
That is correct. Yeah, we became a state in 1867, but this district plan, composite plan that we have presently, it only began in 1992. And as I said a few moments ago, we have attempted to switch back. As a matter of fact, it became law in 1992, and in 1993, the following year, the legislature did vote it back. We went back to winner take all, so we reversed course. However, our Democrat governor, he vetoed that, and there were not enough votes to override his veto.
Wow. Again, you said that's happened twice where you had a Democratic governor.
That is correct.
So the stars have aligned perfectly. This is your opportunity. You have a Republican governor. You have 33 Republicans to do it and still can't get it done. That's wild. So what happened last Friday where there was some procedural vote that was like 8-33 or something? What was that one about?
Well, we have tried to milk the cow any possible way that we could, but as I mentioned earlier, I have kept my finger on the pulse, and I have talked to the holdouts, the individuals that are against this, that are not going to vote green to pass this legislation, and I've asked them over and over again. I said, have you changed your position? I've tried to argue the positives of switching back to winner take all, and they've just not moved. And it's been very, very frustrating, but screaming louder, jumping up and down on top of your desk and setting your hair on fire, it just simply does not move them.
No, yeah. So this was a procedural vote to do some sort of like backdoor kind of way to make it happen?
Well, there's been a number of things. Number one, the bill is actually still in the government committee. And even though it did have enough votes to get out of the government committee, because we are very, very short on time, I don't want to get into the weeds too much here, but Nebraska, as most states, we either have a long or a short session. Last year, an odd year, we did a 90-day session. This year, a 60-day session. So we only have 3 days this week and 1 day next week, so we only have 4 days left. So obviously, to go through the 3 rounds of legislation, it does take some time to make that all happen. And because we did not have enough votes for this bill, what we were going to do was hook it on to another bill. But quite frankly, that other bill also did not have popular support. It only had about 31 votes to override a filibuster.
Okay. All right. Hold on. All right. So much good stuff. I would tell with the state senator of Nebraska, Loren Lippincott. So how often are you in session?
During an even year like this year, we're in session for 60 working days.
What? Your state legislature is open for business for 60 days out of the year? That's it?
Yeah.
What do you guys do in the rest of the year?
Fishing. No, actually, last year, an odd year, we were in session for 90 days. And
that's awesome. That's so awesome. So I just spent the last 12 years in California where they're in session 400 days. So it's like they never stop. It's just constant government all the time. And you guys are barely ever in session. That's that's amazing. Okay, I love the idea. How much do you get paid?
$1,000 a month.
That's great. So the argument in California is that we need to raise the salaries. They needed to raise the salaries of all elected officials because you got to get the best of the best. And the only way you're going to get the best of the best is if you pay more money. You got to pay like a market rate or something for the smartest people. What's the policy in Nebraska?
Well, Nebraska, we're a red state. We're a fiscally conservative state, and personally, I think $1,000 a month is maybe overpaid for what we do.
That's great. Oh gosh, that's just so different. We're like different planets. Okay, sorry. Back to the task at hand. So when you talk to the folks, the Republicans from the Omaha area, what is their argument? What is their constitutionally principled argument against winner take all for the Electoral College?
Well, they don't have very solid arguments, in my opinion. Now, one of them that they have right now is, well, we don't want to upset the apple cart right now in the middle of an election. And of course, I'm thinking, well, what was your excuse last year?
Yeah.
It's just
plus like there's always whatever. I mean, like what's the difference? Who cares? Like what do you mean is in the middle of? We're always in election season
correct.
In this country.
That's right.
Like, it is what it is.
And
okay,
if I could also mention this, if it was such a great idea, how come New York, California, Illinois, Massachusetts, how come those states have not adopted this composite plan, district plan, and followed Maine and followed Nebraska? Well, I can tell you why. Because the state of California and New York, they do have pockets of red. They do have pockets of Republicans, and they would lose votes, congressional votes.